How's it going, everyone? It is I, Paul, your host of the Last Call Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm riding solo here today. All my co-hosts are indisposed, so we're gonna hit you guys with a quick and fast one today. In honor of the NFL Combine being about a week out at this point, exactly a week out. I figured we'd do a bit of a rookie mock draft, maybe just the first round. Try to get you guys familiar with some of the names that maybe you haven't had a chance to catch up with yet. Just give you a little bit of background, give you my 2 cents on them. And this is obviously before uh, the draft. This is before the combine where we get some official measurements and official times. So this is purely my preference and where I would rank these guys in a first round of a 12 team league. So I hope you all enjoy. And with that said, it's last call. Okay, so first off, I think it's obvious this is a name that a lot of people have already heard. Probably the most familiar name that you are going to have coming out of this year's draft, which I think a lot of people have labeled as a lesser draft, maybe fewer blue chip players across the high value positions. Um, but this name, of course, I think is at the top of most people's, at the forefront of people's memories, and that's going to be Jeremiah Love. So he's going to be my 101 running back out of Notre Dame. When you watch this guy, he's explosive. He has incredible receiving chops as well. Like when you actually look at his frame, when I look at his frame, I don't automatically think running back. I think you could put this guy, in the slot. You could put him out wide if you felt so inclined. And I think he has the pass catching chops to perform not only at the college level, which he obviously did at a very high level, but at the NFL level as well. Uh, yeah, a lot of people have him going to the Chiefs, have him going to the Saints to replace Alvin Kamara as he gets older. I don't know if those teams are structurally ready to be drafting a a running back in the top 10. But I think anyone would be excited with either of those landing spots. With the Saints kind of on the rise, they have their offensive line starting to shore up pretty well with two good young tackles. They have a quarterback in place. It seems they're certainly going to give Tyler Shuck as much run as they think they can to see if he's going to be the future of the franchise. And adding a running back would certainly help Tyler Shuck. I don't disagree with that, but they have other holes on the roster that I think need attention when you have that top 10 pick. And of course, the Chiefs, they seem to be able to piece together a roster that's going to be competitive most years. Obviously, last year the wheels definitely fell off. I think you could add an explosive piece like a Jeremiah Love to a Kansas City roster and be pretty happy with that. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has been looking for that receiving dynamic back for years now. They thought maybe they had it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He kind of fizzled out. And I think with Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt being what they are at this point in their careers, you added Jeremiah Love to that, and I think you're starting to cook a little bit with Kansas City once again. At my 102, I'm taking Carnell Tate, and I'll give you some reasons. I think, especially in this year's draft, where I think there are serviceable and quality receivers that you can find in the early rounds of this draft, not just the first round. I think he separates himself as one of these X receivers. He has long strides, he wins contested catches, he has incredible hands and has from all the Ohio State games that I watched this year, he just seems to get open and can manipulate defenders in a way where he can separate consistently. And I think a lot of NFL teams are kind of starving for that X receiver that has the size, has the speed, and I'm going to be curious to see what he runs at the combine because I don't think he's blazing fast, but he could be fast enough. And I mean, you think of like the T. Higgins types, and I'm not saying he's T. Higgins. T. Higgins is bigger and larger in stature than a Carnell Tate, but I think T. Higgins ran like a 4.5, a 4.6, but that didn't matter because he was such a finesse route runner when it came to his footwork on top of his physicality. So Carnell Tate, I think, brings you a little bit of that, and just some of the catches he makes are going to be some of the best catches you will see from this past college season. So I feel really good about him as the 102. And I know a lot of folks that have been doing their dynasty prep, and maybe they've fallen in love with another receiver kind of in this tier. I do put a Carnell Tate, I do put a Jordan Tyson, a Makai Lemon kind of in that one tier like everybody does. Again, this is my personal preference and how I think the NFL is going to value these guys when it comes to the NFL draft itself. I think he could be. I've seen him go in mock drafts as high as a fifth receiver, or sorry, the fifth pick to the Giants. I've seen him fall all the way to the teens, and I wouldn't be surprised by either with how this draft could shake up because there really isn't a lot of consensus. But I do like Carnell Tate as a personal preference of mine out of this group of receivers. So uh, obviously, he's the wide receiver out of Ohio State. I should have mentioned that as well. Okay, 103. For the 103, I'm going to take Jordan Tyson. And some people have him as their wide receiver one, and I get it. He's a large receiver, X receiver, ball winner down the field, fantastic hands, spectacular catches, but also has the separation ability in the short and intermediate game to be a difference maker at the NFL level. So with these first two receiver picks, I really think the NFL is going to value these skilled X receivers because for a long time it's been difficult to find these guys. And at the top of the draft with these two guys, I think you have number one receiver types in a Carnell Tate, in a Jordan Tyson. Maybe the reason I put Tyson down a little bit is because of his injury history. So we'll have to see how. I'm not sure if he's going to be competing at the combine. I don't think he will. Maybe he'll wait till his pro day for him to be a bit healthier. But I think you take a guy like this and you feel really good about putting him out there at X. And I've seen him mocked to the Titans. I've seen him mocked to the Saints. These franchises that have some interesting pieces in the receiver team and receiver group, but they are missing that stick him on the boundary and just go win kind of guy. Both these franchises are. They're not the only two teams. I mean, you could look at a Cleveland. You could look at oh man, you could look at the Jets. Like there are teams that are thirsty for these X receiver types, and I really think that Jordan Tyson can be a difference maker for those teams. Sure hands, large frame. I really think that he could be that guy that you feel really good about putting out there. And sometimes when you just need it, on third down or fourth down and you got to have it, he's a guy that can win at all three levels. Um, at my 104, this might be of a shock to some people, as I just said that I had a top tier of Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, and Makai Lemon. I think Denzel Boston might end up with one of the better landing spots in the NFL draft itself than any of these guys. I think I've seen him mocked to Buffalo. I've seen him mocked to the Eagles to replace AJ Brown. I've seen a lot of these late first round picks being thrown onto Denzel Boston, and I don't blame them. He's big, 6'4". I think he's clocked in at 6'4", 210, something like that right now. I'll be curious to see what those measurements end up being at the combine, but he's a player who, despite his size, is probably even closer to that T. Higgins mold, where he's got really, smooth and quick feet, really good in his routes, not just a vertical guy. He can win in the short and intermediate as well. Coming out of Washington, I think they have a history of producing these really good receivers. Just recently, you think of Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk, we'll see if he ever emerges from the group, but I think Denzel Boston is a player that once again, this is just my perspective and what I think the NFL values, especially with the lack of X receivers in the NFL right now. I think, if he lands with the Patriots, I'd be thrilled. As a Pats fan, I would be thrilled if we got a Denzel Boston for young Drake May to be throwing to out there on the boundary. Um, that said, 105, I now have my Makai Lemon. So some people have Makai Lemon as their number one receiver in this draft, and I can certainly see that. When I watch him, I do agree with a lot of the analysts when they say he's somewhere he's somewhere probably between an Amon-Ra St. Brown and a Khalil Shakir. Deathly effective out of the slot. Can work the zone coverages extremely well. When he catches the ball, it's insane how quickly he can turn and get upfield, and he's just a yak monster. But he's not just that as well. Like when you think of maybe some of these condensed splits that you start seeing the NFL run more and more these days, you can Amon-Ra is technically a slot receiver, but when you put him as the first receiver on a condensed split, that's basically running out of the slot, but he's an outside receiver. So these lines getting blurred, I think, will lend itself to Makai Lemon. And I think, the Amon Ras and the Clear Shakirs and these other more twitched up slot receivers, these bigger slot receivers, I think they've done a lot of walking so Makai Lemon can run. I've seen him be effective down the field as well. So get him on these crossers, get him on a corner, get him on a slot fade. He can run those routes with no problem at all, and I think he'll be effective. Again, with all these players we just talked about, I think they're effective short, intermediate, and deep. Okay, so not a bit of, but 4 wide receivers is where I would have the 102 to the 105, with Jeremiah Love rounding out the top at the 101. And then I think there's a bit of a break here, and I do think if Jonah Coleman, again, a running back out of Washington, I think he measured in at like 5'11, 230 or something. So a short little fire hydrant of a running back. He is a lot of fun to watch. I think he's got enough quicks to hit the edge. I think he's going to be tough to tackle. He's got more shake and more foot speed than I think people expect out of a guy his size. And it'll be interesting. I think he's got good hands as well. So he has 3 down potential. I don't know where the NFL is going to value this guy. He could be a second round or a third round pick. He could slip to day 3. And if he slips to day 3, he probably won't hold down this 106. But if he gets day 2 capital, we're talking mid to late second round, I think there's a good chance that he could hold down a job or certainly be a part of a committee right away. And I think that is going to be valuable for the 106. And I do have to like just a small little side tangent here. I think when it comes to these rookie drafts, you do have to remember like the likelihood of players hitting as you get deeper into even the first round of the draft. The likelihood of players producing from like pick 101 to pick 104 or 105, like there's like a 50 to 60% chance that these guys hit. And then from then on, the percentages get lower and lower as you get towards the back end of even the first round. So you think of some of the first round picks from last year's draft, which was a better skilled position draft, and people were taking Matthew Golden in the back of the first, maybe some of the tight ends who certainly panned out, but that's where players tend to be more of a disadvantaged coin flip, if that makes any sense, when you get to that section of the draft. And even here, I think what we're learning in this draft is there are quality. Like if you're doing a rookie draft this offseason, you want to be in that top 5. You want to be in that top 5 to top 6 so you can get one of these guys that will likely produce right out of the gate. Like once you get past that, things start to get a little bit shaky. With all that said, I'm trying to think of landing places for Jonah Coleman, and the Vikings could certainly be an option if they want to wait on running back. I've seen a lot of mocks and a lot of conversations where the Vikings have traded up to make sure that they get a Jeremiah Love, perhaps. That would be interesting, seeing how their draft history has gone recently. Um, Maybe a Green Bay if you're want to hedge with oh my gosh, Josh Jacobs. If you want to start hedging with him as he gets a little bit older and he goes into the second year of his 3-year contract. Um, or I guess he's going into his third year, isn't he? Oh man, there's so much movement at the running back position this offseason. It's good. That's going to have to be a whole other podcast. Jonah Coleman, trying to think of other landing spots. Like I think, him going to, I mean, would the Seahawks possibly take him at the back of the first or maybe end of the second? It's possible. Um, just with Kenneth Walker kind of being up in the air and Charbonnet being um, and Charbonnet coming off the ACL, moving costs would be extremely low for him if that was the case. Yeah, so we'll see. Like I think he's been labeled as possibly a third round pick. I would like to see him jump up into the second, and if he does, it'll be a good situation for Jonah Coleman. Casey Concepcion comes in at my 107. So another receiver. He's coming out of Texas A&M. He had transferred from North Carolina, and I got to say, just watching his highlights, I think he has some of the best hands that I've seen in this group. The quarterback he was playing with at Texas A&M, not the top tier kind of quarterback that we've seen in the past. So I would just say a lot of passes were not spot on and not on target, and he still managed to high point the ball with sure hands. A lot of people like to use the Deebo. As soon as someone starts taking jet sweeps, it feels like people want to use the Deebo Samuel comp, and I don't think he's that. I think he's a way better receiver than Deebo Samuel. Um, but he certainly has the physicality and the toughness to get yards after the catch. He'll put a move on a guy after he has the ball and gain those extra 2 or 3 yards. I think he's a um, extremely fun rookie to be keeping an eye on. I'll be curious to see how he performs at the combine if he does. If he does, then I think his draft stock will go up. I've seen him mocked in the first round. I've seen him mocked in the second round. So his, I think his performance at the combine should boost his standing pretty well, all things considered. And I think he's just good. I think the combine is a place where he will shine with his athleticism and his hands. When you start getting into that gauntlet drill, I think you'll be very happy with those results. And I think he'll catch the eyes of many an NFL team. So if he goes at the back end of the first half of the draft, um, goes at the back end of the first round of the draft, then I think he will have a bright future as well. Like first round wide receivers usually perform admirably and in their rookie season, and they have a high percentage chance of emerging in their first 3 years. So I'm just looking here. If he was to go to San Francisco. I think that one's been a very popular one for Casey Concepcion. I think if he was to go to there, or if he was to go to, heck, I mean, even New England as a New England's homer, I would certainly love to have him on the team. If we don't get a Denzel Boston, Concepcion, so watching his tape, he can get he's extremely effective out of the slot, eats up zone coverage really well. But I've seen him play outside in that Z position, so he's not that X, but he can play outside and he can run the routes you need him to out of that position as well. So if I think if I was in a rookie draft myself this year, I'd be penciling him as a guy that I'd be targeting in this middle and obscure kind of area of the draft. I put Kenyon Sadiq at the 108. I think it's going to be a draft capital conversation because I think he's going to blow the combine out of the water with his athleticism. Uh, there's no doubt that he is a superb athlete and he has great playmaking potential. I think when it comes to him, it's going to be the details of can he block can he block down on a defensive end? Can he get on a linebacker and maintain a block? And maybe NFL roster looks at that and says, we don't need him to do that. We've got other tight ends or other people that can block, but his playmaking will certainly be something to keep an eye on. I mean, he's famous for his crazy hurdle over a player, the not this past season, but the season before. So I think he's got a bright future. I think the other part to this is, you always ask, is a rookie tight end going to make an immediate impact? And I've seen him draft or mocked to the Denver Broncos as like a replacement for Evan Ingram, which I do like that fit. That said, I mean, you even look at the tight ends this past year with Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren and Harold Fannin. Colston Loveland came into the season hurt, so he didn't really get going until the second half. Tyler Warren came out of the gates, roaring, and Harold Fannin was a huge pickup after he was a huge free agent pickup in fantasy after week one, and he maintained his relevance through the season. So I think rookie tight ends are becoming more and more important to establishing an offense, or I guess being established in an offense when it comes to being drafted highly. For a long time, rookie tight ends were not thought to be difference makers right out of the gate. We've seen that trend kind of be bucked the past couple years, and I wonder if that will continue with Kenyon Sadiq. I think I should say, tight end out of Oregon. People seem to knock him for his lack of yak ability. So, can he add some moves to his repertoire to gain a couple extra yards rather than being a catch and fall guy? I think he has it in him. He's too good an athlete otherwise. So, once again, we'll just quickly break down. We got Jeremiah Love, 101, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, Makai Lemon, Jonah Coleman, Casey Concepcion, Kenyon Sadiq to get us to the 108. Four more players here that I'll go a little bit faster with just because I think these are more uh, presumptive picks. I don't know where these guys are going to end up round wise, and I don't know how they're going to test technically. But the next player that I would say at the 109, based on what I've heard and what I've seen, would be Jadarian Price, and he's technically he's the backup running back to Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. So his production profile is obviously limited. When you're the second fiddle to a Jeremiah Love, I think your production is just going to be lower naturally. That goes without saying. But he didn't really catch a lot of passes either, which is becoming a more and more prevalent statistic when it comes to how we value running backs. So I think it's going to be very important for him to show out at the combine. Draft capital is going to mean a lot. I've seen mocks put him in the second round, which would be shocking to me with his production profile and his I guess lack thereof, and the fact that it's a limited sample size of what you're actually looking at when you try to watch his tape, because obviously Jeremiah Love did get the lion's share there. I'm not saying he doesn't know how to catch the ball. I think he could, but it's just something that he was not used a terrible lot of when it came to Notre Dame's offense, and something to be said about his rushing numbers could be something to the effect of like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish had a really good offensive line. Like his yards before contact were really good. So all these things kind of help stack up to kind of inflating the production that he did have. So it'll be very interesting to see how the NFL values this. You could always make the argument that he has less wear and tear on the tires because he didn't have as much workload as Jeremiah Love. All this to be seen. This is all presumptive. And not until we get through the combine and get through that NFL draft will a lot of these players at the back end of the first even be at this point, in my opinion. At the 110, I feel like this is an appropriate place to take Fernando Mendoza. If you're in a dynasty league and you're at the 10 spot, you probably have a pretty good roster. Maybe you have a Matthew Stafford at quarterback and you're looking just to future proof that. Um, Either future proof it or take a shot on a quarterback for depth where He'll be the 101 in this coming draft, and I guess it's an appropriate place to take him. Fill in during a good matchup or during a bye week, and you feel pretty good about that. At 111, I've got Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville. Very much profiles as a DK Metcalf kind of wide receiver. Big, strong, athletic, fast. Very good at vertical route, running the 9, and then he can also break it inside, do a horizontal crosser or an in-breaker, a slant, catch it, and just take off and run away from guys. If you're trying to catch up to him, good luck. And if you're trying to, you know, hit him low, that probably won't work either with the fact that he's just so strong. Now, he is coming off an ACL tear that happened towards the back end of the season. So it'll be interesting how that affects his draft stock. I know the guys over at the 33rd team, when they do their mocks, I know Steve likes to put him at the back end of the first round, maybe to the Patriots, as like an X receiver type that can just go deep and be a yards after the catch kind of guy for Drake May. Certainly possible. I would like to see how that unfolds and how I don't. Well, he won't be participating at the combine, I don't believe. So if all you have to go off of is his tape from this past season, I think you're good. You're going to be happy with it. I just don't know how much of that you can trust going into the NFL draft. And at this point, we're looking at players that are probably going to be taken in day 2 or day 3. And then finally, to round out the first round of this rookie draft, I have Eli Stowers. He is a tight end, and I honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know a whole lot about him. I think he will slot well into a day 2 sort of frame, and he will be a good receiving weapon option. He's not the biggest tight end. He clocks in at 6'4", 235, so more of a halfback, more an H. So we'll see. I think when it comes to this year's draft, it is fairly, if I trust what I'm told from all the other analysts, is that it is a pretty good tight end class. And if you need the receiver types, you can get those. If you need the blocker types, you can get those. So he slots in as a receiver type, which is why I feel pretty good about getting him at the back end of the first round. And I think there's a couple players that we could mention here as a honorable mention. So Skylar Bell is talked of pretty handsomely, kindly. He's a receiver out of UConn who tore up that conference. I'm not going to say he didn't. He had a very good final season, but it was really this final season where he emerged and broke out and kind of slots in as that slot gadget kind of player. Which I think the NFL is going to try to get away from a little bit more. So if he's a third round or fourth round pick, I wouldn't be surprised. I just I don't know who in the NFL is going to be going around and valuing the Malik Washington types or, these slot receivers that can run a 5-yard out and a 5-yard in, and it's not moving the dial all that much. Emmett Johnson, running back out of Nebraska, I want to say. He's another player who a lot of buzz is being built up around. Haven't had a chance to watch too much of his tape, but I believe he's an older prospect. So if he's a 25-year-old prospect, I want to make sure I'm getting that right. Give me 1 second here, folks. Emmett Johnson. So he is okay. So I'm thinking of someone else. Yeah, he's 22, so he'll be fine. So that's a name that has popped up, and I won't spend too much time on him because I don't know enough. Nick Singleton was like a 5-star recruit at running back coming out of high school, and the athleticism is incredibly obvious when you watch him play. However, just not incredible vision. Um, yeah, just it, it's one thing to be an athlete. It's another thing to play running back at a high level. And I'm not sure where NFL teams will land on with his tape. He's probably going to test. I mean, sorry, no, he didn't. I think he broke his foot at the Senior Bowl. So he probably can't even test at the combine. So it's going. I think that's going to hurt his draft stock quite a bit. And there's a whole bunch of other guys we could get into. If we wanted to do a longer mock draft, we could certainly do so maybe after the combine. I'd be curious. Maybe we can have some extra co-hosts on to help me talk through this. Um, Otherwise, that's it. So to break it down one more time, we got Jeremiah Love at the 101. We got Carnell Tate at the 102. Jordan Tyson, 103. Denzel Boston at the 104. Makai Lemon, 105. Jonah Coleman at the 106. KC Concepcion, 107. Kenyon Sadiq at the 108. Javion, did you get that? Jadarian Price, sorry about that. Jadarian Price at the 109. Fernando Mendoza, 110. Chris Bell at the 111. And Eli Stowers at 112. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments, guys. And that was a lot of fun and a lot of it was insightful for me to, I guess, start thinking about the rookie drafts and start breaking down what I think is going to happen, start fantasizing about what landing spots people might land at. um, yeah, and it all starts next week, everybody. Like, we got the combine next week. We're on free agent watch, and the franchise tag season is here now as well. So lots going on in the NFL as they continue to hold our attention through the offseason. Um, Looking forward to chatting more about all these results and news as it comes out. And that's going to do it for us, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And we'll be back next week with a couple more episodes leading into the combine. Thanks, everyone. Bye.